Hello everybody. Let me tune down the music a little bit. Please let me know if you can still hear me. Hello and good evening or good day, because some of you might be watching from places where, well, it's not weekend yet. For me it is already weekend, however not really a great one till now. And yeah, I also know I'm not looking too great, but I got the flu. So basically 2 days I was almost out, and today I was feeling better already, so I went for a run, but it was a horrible run. Cool, but I'm glad that we get to gather around here once again, just like we did last week. And I guess it was a very full week, I would say. There were a lot of things happening. Let me just check who is joining here. So I see we have a few people there. As always, as I like to do, please don't be shy and feel free to say hello in the chat and let me know where you are watching from. It's very nice for me to have kind of like an overview, even geographical, to see exactly where people are tuning into this stream. And by the way, I know that right now I am live on YouTube, on Twitter or X, and on LinkedIn. So on all these networks you can just simply write messages in the chat and I should be able to see them, and that would actually be great, because that would also give us the opportunity to know each other a little bit better and to have some nice chats here and to talk about things that are important for us as developers, as people, as well, people that are passionate about technology. As I always encourage everyone during the stream, please feel free to ask questions or to say things in the chat. I really want this to be as interactive as possible. I don't want this to be just me speaking here and writing code. I just want to interact with you to have talks, to understand things, to maybe also argue sometimes, because it's okay not to have the same opinion or not to be of the same opinion. Hello Hassan from Saudi Arabia, thank you very much for joining. And Saeed is also here from Dubai, very nice. I visited Dubai only as a passage when I went to Zanzibar, so on the airport, but it's definitely on my bucket list to come there and stay for, I don't know, 4 or 5 days, probably at a point in time where it's not too hot. So yeah. Also I see here a message from X. Cool, good morning. Is this going to be a video later? Yes. So all the live streams that I have here are basically, after we finish it, you can already watch it on demand on my YouTube channel. So feel free to go there. And I specified it on the YouTube channel because this question comes from X. And thank you very much, by the way. I guess you are the first one ever that wrote a message on the X platform while I was live. So I really appreciate that. That is actually very nice of you. Yeah, okay, let's start by doing or clarifying a little bit of stuff here, because there were some interesting things happening this week and I want to, share a little bit of them with you. Probably some of you might already be familiar, probably some of you might not, but I have, and I promised you the last time out, that I just really want to kind of like up my game a little bit into this space and try to do things that are valuable for you or for people that generally think that they can, I don't know, find some nice ideas in the things that I do. So X, you are writing on YouTube. Okay, sorry, so I saw the X sign and I thought it was from X. Oops, sorry for that one. So yeah, coming back to the okay, Harrison, well, hello. Okay, from where are you from, Harrison? Also, greetings to Silvio. I see he's here. He's from Romania. I know him. Okay, so I was saying that I kind of like want to up my game a little bit and to do some more stuff that might be useful. So, who of you already know that I have done one thing that's a first, basically for me? I have published an ebook. Like, it's not a very long one, but I think it's very insightful on a very specific topic that I think might be valuable for a lot of people, and it is about API versioning and things that I have learned while I was working with APIs and versioning So if you are not aware, this is, or here is where you can get the ebook, or you can also feel free to share it with others. I don't know, maybe at work with your colleagues, or you have some friends that are programmers and that, well, might find it useful. The idea is that, yes, in this ebook, there is also a part of practical implementations in .NET, but I would say that 75% of what's in the book right now, it's actually not related to a certain stack. There are things that are really generally for all other stacks. So they are really general programming knowledge or understanding about API design. So it's not strictly related to .NET or to anything related to C#. So yeah, make sure that you check it out or share it with others, send a link to others if you think that they might find this useful. However, the important thing that I wanted to say is actually that this ebook is, let's say, only a first part, or will be only a first chapter of a book that will be, I would say, because I've done some research about other books that have been written on this topic. I've done some research on, I don't know, things, videos that have been done, courses that have been published on a lot of different platforms. They say that they are great, and from my opinion, they are not really great. And it is the idea of writing, or how do we design and write and implement a production-ready REST API or API, web API in .NET. So I have already the outline for the book. It will be probably huge, and it will really have everything that I have learned in these 10 years of experience working mostly with web APIs, and I really want to share that. So there will be things regarding, okay, API versioning, but the first part of the book is all about the external contracts of your API, because there are really a lot of things that we need to be aware. How should we document? How should we design the contracts? How should we version the contract? So there are a lot of things there, but then we go into the internal kitchen and we see, okay, how do we do proper error reconciliation? How do we send proper responses? How do we do request compression and different ways to do compression? How do we optimize generally the throughput of our API? How do we do logging? How do we do observability? Because observability is really a huge topic and very important one. And a lot of people, they talk about it as if it was just logging, but it's not just logging. Logging is something different than observability. We'll have a dedicated part on security, in which we'll go in depth into different security aspects of that API. So everything will be in that book that will be about production ready APIs. Now, the good thing is, and yeah, well, if you're not subscribed to this channel, or well, maybe on LinkedIn, or you don't follow me on X, you should follow me there or somewhere, because I will not wait, and that's important, I will not wait until I finish the book. Now, on this platform, on LimpUp, it's actually very cool, because I can publish the book even if it's not ready yet. So I will probably do a pre-launch of the book when I have the first 3 or 4 chapters, and people can already kind of like buy it, and every week or every 10 days I will add a new chapter to the book until it is finished. Now, when it will be finished, well, the official pre-launch phase will be ready, and then the price of the book will be kind of, or will have the default price or the standard price that I haven't thought about yet. But during this period when it's pre-launch, when it's not ready yet, you probably will able to get it for almost free probably. So please stay tuned, because there are things that are coming here. And there was one last thing that I wanted to talk to you about. And by the way, once again, don't be shy and please use the chat. Every time you have a question, you want to say something, you want to give me some feedback, you want to roast me or whatever, please use the chat. Let's have a conversation. Let's try to really know each other, and let's try to become a community. That would be very important. So this being said, is there anything else I need to say? Let me check if there are any questions here. Hello from Poland. Thank you very much for joining. Thank you very much for joining from Poland. Let me check briefly if there is somebody here on LinkedIn, and actually I have 5 people on LinkedIn watching. Hello, people from LinkedIn. Thank you very much for being here. Okay, let me check on X. No, on X there's nothing. And on YouTube there are a lot of you, and thank you very much for joining. Cool. So what do we actually want to do? We want to create an identity provider, and last time out we started kind of like with creating the basic project structure, and we said that we wanted to also introduce some versioning in the API, and we have introduced, like, we have created the folder structure that I would usually recommend for versioning, like with this v1 and v2, and in each version basically we put all the contracts and the controllers and everything that's specific for a certain version we basically place there. So that's what we have done right now. The endpoints, they don't really do anything. We have also implemented here a static class in which we want to have all the routes defined so that we don't really have to kind of like manually type the routes on the controllers and on the actions. We will just have all the constants, the string constants for the API endpoints defined here. And if we need to change something, we can just change that in one single place, and then everything will work for all the others. Okay, sorry was not here for the first part. Why controllers and not minimal APIs? That's actually a very good question. And to be honest, I usually tend not to use controllers for regular APIs. I tend not to use minimal APIs for proper APIs that kind of like I want to create, because I think that in the whole controller based, let's say, approach, you have a lot of functionality that I usually use in my APIs, like the different types of filters. Like model binding doesn't quite work the same in the minimal APIs. It's a little bit more cumbersome, and I really don't think that minimal APIs are useful, at least for me, when you want to do a proper API. Minimal APIs I usually use when I want to expose some very simple endpoints, maybe for something like, I don't know, webhooks, or there was another practical case when we ran a Windows service and we just wanted in that Windows service to kind of like also expose some HTTP endpoints, very few. But then we use we use the minimal APIs. But other than that, I prefer all the functionalities that we have around controllers, and I really like that. And one reason why I don't really 100% like the minimal APIs is because if you need to implement some proper functionality there, you will end up creating basically your own controller classes by trying to group the different minimal API endpoints into some files and stuff like that. So I personally don't really see the value in them. Obviously you could have a different opinion, and I know there are lots of people that have a different opinion, but for me and for the projects I work on, I strongly believe that it's better to use the controllers and not the minimal API endpoints, because it makes your life much easier in a lot of circumstances and contexts. But that was a great question, by the way. Thank you very much. And don't forget, always when you want to ask something or say something or whatever, just feel free to drop something in the chat and we will be able to have a chat. Okay, so where should we start? I think I'm out of things to drink. That was not a good planning from my side. Okay, so I was saying last time that what I want to do here is, let's think that we want to build an identity provider for a company, like an internal identity provider. We don't really want to do something like Auth0 or things like that kind of like everybody can go there, but it's only the identity provider for my company and that's it. And there will be a lot of different applications probably that would need to authenticate, and we will use this identity provider to implement OpenID Connect and Auth 2.0 flows. That's the whole point of what we want to do. My aim is to use as few libraries as possible. The goal here is not to implement the best possible identity provider, because that's probably impossible. There are a lot of solutions that are already out there and that are good enough. But the idea is for us to kind of like learn and see or tackle different challenges that we will encounter down the road while we build this type of functionality, this identity provider. And that's why I will try to not use libraries. Obviously for database and so on, we will use Entity Framework Core, but we don't want to use Microsoft ASP.NET Core Identity. That's important. So I don't want to use Microsoft ASP.NET Core Identity. We will implement everything from scratch. Now, there is one reason why I wanted it, or why I want to consider this as being an identity provider for a company. Because I was thinking a lot during this week about how or what I want to do with these live streams. And actually this is, or I have this idea that, okay, we can build this identity provider, but then we can go during live streams, maybe even one step further, and create different applications basically that a company might use. Like for instance, a project management system, like for instance, an HR system. And then we'll also get to see how everything works together. And we'll get to see other challenges that might come in an enterprise when you start to have different applications. Basically, each application will generate somehow its own set of data. And you will see that at a certain point, we will be in the scenario where we would need, for instance, in application A, we need some data that we have in application B. So the option is, okay, just call application B and get the data, which we could do. But then there will be probably an application C that will need at a certain point some data from application B, and so on. And what you will end up having, and that's something that I've seen in enterprise environments where I have worked a lot, basically every application talks to every application and it's a total mess. You don't understand exactly where the source of truth for some data is. And that's not really optimal. And that's, for instance, when there is the need to create an internal data warehouse, for instance, like a centralized data platform for the enterprise. And then we'll have the option or the possibility to investigate a little bit, okay, how could we do that? Using maybe even also Microsoft Azure services and so on. So that's why I want to keep this idea that, okay, let's keep this for a company, because we'll try during the months and so to build other types of applications that a company might use. And all these applications will fit basically into an entire, let's say, enterprise system. And we'll see all the challenges that we have while we develop something like that. So let me know if you think that this is a good idea. And yeah, that's very important. So will you add unit tests? Or it would be too much time to for the stream. I'm not sure if I will add unit tests during the stream, but maybe we'll add unit tests or tests generally for some parts of it, and we'll see then. Yeah, that's a good question, and that's definitely something that we need to think about, and we could probably do. As said, I see this stream as a very long time project in which I'll stream at least once a week, and we'll get to do a lot of different stuff. Now, since I want to make this kind of like a company specific, we have set up everything last time with this idea of users. Now, the thing is that I don't want my resource, let's say, to be users. I want my resource in this case for, let's say, the users that will be in the system to be employees, because if we are a company, we want to have employees, not users. Like, there are very specific users, they are employees. Is the code available on GitHub? That's actually a great question. The source code for the live streams, as also the source code for all the videos that I do, is available, or I make it available for Code Wrinkles members on a level ambassador or higher. So everybody that joins on YouTube the channel as a member on the tier ambassador will get, after each video or after each live stream, an indication on how he or she can access the source code. So the source code will be available for members. So please make sure that you become a Code Wrinkles member if you want to get access to the source code. Now, this stream will probably end at a point that will be fairly late in Romania where I am. So probably I won't post the source code this night, but tomorrow morning when I wake up, that this will be probably one of the first things that I will do. So make sure to actually get there. Okay, cool. Now let's try to see what we need to rename here, because there are a lot of things that we need to rename. Let me check. Okay. I'm not sure exactly why my phone is vibrating, because I'm not getting anything basically. That's strange. That's very, very strange. Okay, let me check, because I see that it's kind of like a little bit quiet here. So people, are you all sleeping or are you all at work? What are you up to? If you didn't say anything so far, please drop a message, say hello at least, and please let me know where you are watching from. I would totally appreciate that. I really want to get to understand exactly where everybody is watching from. Hello Friday, okay. Vyacheslav, I think we are colleagues, Vyacheslav, no? Nice. Okay, you are watching Content Mobility. Hello from Canada. Canada, okay, thank you very much for joining. I think it's very early in the day there. Yeah, Vyacheslav is from Moldova. Hello Vyacheslav. Captain, hello from Vancouver. Syed, okay. Yeah, it's 10:26. Basically, you're 1 hour in front of me. From Uzbekistan. I think it's very first time that somebody from Uzbekistan tunes in. Thank you very much for joining. I think it's way later there. I think it's maybe already the next day. It's already Saturday, I guess. Cool. Okay, let me check if there are things here on LinkedIn here. Okay, here we have Ombasa from Nairobi. Hello Ombasa, thank you very much for tuning in. I really appreciate that. We have Raj. And we have Admir. Hello from Skopje, from Macedonia. Thank you very, very much for joining. I really appreciate that. Let me also check Twitter, but well, X. But here on X, yeah, people are not that chatty here, although there are 35 viewers. Thank you very much for tuning in on X. Thank you very much. Please also drop a message here in the chat and say hello. Let me know where you are watching from. I would totally appreciate that. Okay. So let's now then start moving over once again. Okay, Alec, here we have fellow from the Philippines. Hello Alec, thank you very much for joining. So what do we have here with users? Have you tried Linux? Well, I work with some Linux machines at work. Obviously there are certain customers or environments where we use mostly Linux, but on my home computer I will probably always use Windows, because I'm old and well, I have this habit. I'm accustomed to using Windows, and when you arrive at a certain age you don't like change so much. So probably on my home computer I will not go to Linux, and for sure not to Mac. That's totally out of the question. Okay, so what do we actually need to change here? There are some things. First of all, this folder should not be user management anymore. Let's call this employees. Now v1 and v2 remains the same, and then we will need to change some namespaces probably, but also this class. It will not be user registration, it will be employee registration. Okay, and it also changed here. But I also want to change the namespace. It could be employees. Yeah, employees should be fine. I think like that. Okay. Hello from Italy. Would you prefer having a global exception handler in API project, or better to add a try catch block on every API call? Definitely not a try catch on every API call, but we'll probably end up using something like the result pattern actually. So probably we wouldn't have try catches, but still we need a global exception handler. And in .NET 8 we have kind of like the new async exception handler that you can use. So we will probably use that one, Leonardo Atari. Thank you very much for joining. By the way, where in Italy? From where in Italy? Because I stayed in Italy for quite some time when I was much younger than now. Okay, so So going back here, we have this employee registration that we have changed. We have changed the namespace to kind of like reflect the new folder structure. Then the user's controller here, we would also have employees because that's the new namespace. And then obviously also the user controller, we'll need to rename that. Employees controller, and it also renamed my class, which is cool. I like that. How about changing contract properties setters from set to init person? Okay, that might be a good idea. To be honest, kind of like the contract that we have placed there, we didn't really kind of like think about it, so we just set some properties. We'll definitely come back to that. So we will definitely come back to that. And now we have the same user controller in the v2 one, and here we have also employees, the v2, and we need to rename this one. This is the employees controller. And now we'll see why it's actually good or a good idea to have these endpoints defined here in, for instance, this class. Because right now, instead of doing the changes in all the different controllers, like in this case we just have two, so it wouldn't have been a big problem. But for other cases, probably there would. And here I would call this employees. So that would be the base. And then by ID, it will be users plus user ID. So I think that one should be okay. So we have changed this there, and then this will be reflected in the route of our controller. So I think we should be okay with that one. Okay, so here what we have Friday. Okay, I have been watching your lessons for a long from the old video lessons. Now I realized that you have become a lot like Steve Jobs. Me? Whoa. Do you really think we look alike or what? Because it's true, I lost some weight, but I don't know, I never thought that we were kind of like similar a little bit. But yeah, I assume that that's a compliment. Thank you very much. Cool. Okay, now let's try to shape up a little bit the domain. So let's go here to the domain, and in the domain I will also have a similar structure. So where do we have here? Add a folder. So I will try to also, here we'll have employees, and here we'll place different things that we have for employees, like the model itself, probably, I don't know, we'll have validators, maybe, I don't know. So all the things that regard the employees and things we place in this folder. Then for other things we'll have something else, and so on and so forth. So we have here in employees, let's add a new class. And let's call this class employee. I don't like this one. I know there's a setting to not make the classes internal by default, but I don't remember exactly where. Will the user ID be a GUID? Where will we store the data? In some relational database? Yes, we will use a SQL Server for now. And we'll use GUIDs for some things, and we'll use IDs for some other things, probably. Okay, now Copilot does a lot of things here. Let's see, what does Copilot do? Okay, so code generated by Copilot. Oh my god. Oh my god. Where did Copilot found this? I think it would take me 5 minutes just to read this out. Full address with country and zip code and state and city and address and phone number. Who would do something like this? Because Copilot probably did take it from somewhere. And what is this actually returning? So it just returns a string. There's the address, there's the city, there's state, zip code, country. My god. You see, that's kind of like that's cool. when you have AI, we are safe. We are safe, guys. We are really safe. Now, what would you say if you need to kind of like review a pull request that contains this? Really, what would be, or what would you say if you need to review a pull request that contains this code? I'm really curious. How would you interpret it? And some ideas of what would you do? Actually, that would be nice. Let's see. So we have, yeah, Copilot can generate some pretty interesting stuff. All the implementations for the address strings are the same. Yeah, actually, yes. They changed just the name, but actually the implementation is really exactly the same. So that's one thing. I didn't even notice that because the name was longer, but yes, I think that's the only one that's the full name, and then for the address, kind of like it's like that. Okay, what else do you say? I'm leaving this company ASAP. Okay, so that's what you would say if you get to code review code like this. Remove full from the names, at least. Remove full from the names. Like this one, or I don't know. Okay. So what would be some ideas to refactor this? Let me also check. Let me check here. Okay, we have here some comments on X, on Twitter. Ben, greetings from Netherlands. Thank you very much, Ben, for tuning in. I really appreciate that. Poland is really a very nice country that I really like a lot. All the implementations for the address strings are the same. So here is the comment. It's on X. Thank you very much. Yep. So what would be some approaches, or what would you change? How or what would you refactor for this class? What would you refactor from here for this class? Okay, and on LinkedIn we have also Lafita here, which is from India. Thank you very much for tuning in. I guess in India it's very late or early the next day, basically, compared to where I am right now. And yeah, but I think for the first time ever here we have more viewers on X than on YouTube, so it's really a first. Thank you very much, all of you tuning in on X. Okay, let's see what we have, like full address. Okay, so do this. I'll rename to full address. Let's see what other types are. Make a value object for the address properties. I think that's a good idea. Hi, can you repeat the steps? Punit, can you please extrapolate a bit what steps? Just want to say once again that you need to be aware that there is a delay from the moment that I'm actually saying something or doing something and the moment that you actually see it. There is a delay of 20-30 seconds, and that's why when you say something, I might not have the proper context for that. So if you can kind of like give the context, okay, what steps do you want me to repeat? Also, here we have also Shiv from India. Thank you very much for tuning in from India. I see I think we have most people from India right now. So yeah, that's great. Thank you very much. Okay, so I've seen here some very bold ideas already, so you definitely don't need to watch the stream. So yeah, let's start refactoring a little bit this class. We have here the first name, last name, email, password, and the phone number and the address, and the city, state, zip code, country, job title, department, manager, profile picture, oh my god, date of birth, date of joining, date of leaving, okay, is active, is deleted, okay, then created at, updated at, deleted at, created by, updated by, deleted by. Okay, nice, that's nice. Change datetime to datetime offset. True, that's definitely something that we will need to do. Created by, should it be an int since the user ID is an int? Yes, it should be, but we will change the user ID to be a GUID, so it will be GUID. So definitely it will be a GUID, I think. Okay, and then we have this idea of full name, full address with city. Man, this is crazy. But where did Copilot see something like this? And how did it come that this is a good idea? Do not store password hash. Definitely will, and I think we talked a little bit briefly in the previous stream about that. We'll get to try to, well, implement our own password hasher. That will be a very nice challenge. So we will definitely do that. Yeah. So let's just start. Let's start from here. So here we have some properties. Obviously we have this. I want this to be a GUID. Okay. Maybe just remove the stuff you know you're going to need. A Yagni all day long up in here. Yes. The only problem is that we don't know 100% or exactly what we'll need and what not. But we'll see. Like the first name, last name is something that we want to have. But my way of thinking here, like the first name and the last name, these are some information, but we have an email and a password. And what other things do we have here that might be important here? To the term, profile picture not, manager should be also something else, probably a GUID here. And date of birth, date of joining, date of leaving. Okay, so what I would think I will do here is, first of all, I want to extract this idea of email and password into, let's call it a value object, although I will not really implement a full value object. Should we normalize emails? I would say so, but I don't think we'll kind of like lose time with this right now. But yeah, that would be a good idea. But I want to have this email and password. Basically, these are the credentials. These are the credentials. Now, one thing that we have also is usually also a username. I mean, also in Active Directory, and you have a username and you have the email address, and the username is very often just like the first part of the email address. And I wonder if we want to also have a username here. Let's also have a username here. Let me check if there is anything else here on LinkedIn. Hi, can you repeat the steps? Sorry, I don't know exactly what steps. So as I said earlier, if you can give a little bit of context to your question, that would be great. And on X, there's nothing new, but still people are watching. Hello, and thank you very much for watching. Okay, so I would like to here create a new, no, not folder. Why did I do folder? No, not folder. So I will create a new concept here, and I will not implement a full-fledged value object with comparisons, because I think kind of like, I don't know, it takes a lot of time that's not really 100% useful. So we'll have this idea of credential, and the credential will contain some information that basically the user uses for probably login or something like that. Let's also make this public. Now, if we go back to the employee, what will be credentials? Like email and password. Okay. Definitely will place here. But what I would like to also have is a public string. Actually, will make them even required. Not email, but username. So we have, this should also be required, and the password obviously should also be required. So all this information is information that we need. So it's not something that we cannot leave like that. And for the password, we'll just rename this property to make it more explicit, because what we place there, we want this to be a password hash. Actually, as somebody mentioned here on the stream, on the chat, that's totally correct. That's what we want to have here. Okay, let me go to the employee. And is there anything else that could be part of the credential, like the phone number, address? That's not something that's part of the credential. State, zip code, country, job title, and department. Definitely not part of the credential. Then we have this manager, profile picture, definitely not part of the credential. Date of birth, date of joining, date of leaving. Is active, is deleted, created at, created by, deleted by. So I think we don't have anything else that we want to be part, or that I want to be part of the credential. we'll just replace that and we'll have this public. I would want to make it required. But the problem is that I think we'll need to kind of like this will probably mapped to a complex property in Entity Framework Core, and I think that complex properties in Entity Framework Core actually they can be nullable, or they should be nullable. We cannot have required ones, unfortunately. So we'll have okay. So I see here some comments in Romanian. I think, why make a credential a class and not a record? Yeah, we could definitely make it a record, so no problem with that one. But yeah, I usually, I don't know, my domain models I usually use as classes, but we can transform it into a record definitely. I don't know, I kind of like have a better overview of what's happening here if, I don't know, I have it like this. Now I can definitely change this to record. From my point of view, it doesn't really 100% matter, as long as I'm not actually interested right now in the functionalities of the record, like the comparison and so on. So yeah, but we can definitely do this. You can do equals null to avoid nullable reference types. Okay, yeah, but I hate to do this. I really hate to do this, to say equals null to avoid nullable reference types. From my point of view, this is something like, I don't know, lying somehow to the compiler. I don't know, it doesn't really feel right. I know that it probably is, it's just, don't take it as a best practice, it's just a personal preference. I don't know, it doesn't feel right to me to make it like that. So if I think that, okay, this is a constraint that it should be nullable, so well, it will be nullable in that case. Now we have this credential. Then we have some information here that I think would fit together in another type of, let's say, concept, which would be the personal information, maybe like first name, last name, phone number, address, city, state, zip code, country. Yeah, I think this would fit into something like a personal information. What would you think about it? But for me, it would seem like a case for that. For me, it would definitely seem like a case for that. Let me check. There are still people watching everywhere. Thank you very much. And yeah, we have most of the viewers on X. That's kind of huge. Thank you very much for tuning in. Thank you very much for tuning in. Usually most of the users were on YouTube, but now most of the viewers are on X. Oh, seems like X starts to be a very good platform for video. Maybe, I don't know, maybe it will be a competitor for YouTube at a certain point. I don't know. I don't really know that. But thank you very much, all of you, for joining on X. Don't be shy and leave a comment, leave questions, leave hints. Whenever I ask something or kind of like I ask for your input, feel free to just say something there. I would totally appreciate that. Let me check something here. Okay. Everything seems to be fine. Okay. Cool. So let's introduce this other concept here right now. We'll have a new class and we will call this personal information. Okay. Cool. Yeah, that should also be public. And here, what should we have here from the user? Let's close this credentials because we don't need them anymore. So we'll need the first name and the last name, the personal information, and I would also have them required. We don't want to have employees in our company that don't have a first name and don't have a last name, obviously, I guess. So I think it makes sense to have them required. And phone number and address. Address is something that we definitely need to model differently. Like it should have its own model. Theoretically, phone number also, but for simplicity's sake, I will keep it like phone number. Like probably if this would be kind of like a 100% production ready thing, Phone, I don't know, maybe that could be empty. So if that would be a production ready thing, probably I would have a class for phone number, because you would have to kind of like have the country code, have the regional code or the provider code, and then the number itself. And then there are a lot of operations that you might need to do on that. So probably that should be a class, but I really don't want to concentrate in this stream on this. I just want to concentrate on the functionality that we want to build. The point is not to avoid nullable types. Dusan Gnezevic. Thank you very much for joining, Dusan. Dusan is very active on LinkedIn. Probably you've seen him. If you also are on LinkedIn, he's a creator basically on LinkedIn. He does a lot of cool stuff there. He posts a lot of things. So thank you very much for tuning in. But yeah, I totally agree. The point is not to avoid nullable types. That's why I don't want to lie to the compiler. Now here for the phone number, I don't know. I suspect there might be employees that don't have a phone number, although, well, everybody has a phone nowadays. But I don't know. Let's not make it required. But you know what? I also don't. If there is something, I don't want to have empty strings. Like, I prefer this to be null instead of be an empty string. Empty strings, I think, are worse because they are totally misleading. Is required statement better than required annotation? They are for different purposes. Required is basically a keyword that tells the compiler that you need basically this property to be set in the initializer. Or obviously, if you have a constructor and you set in the constructor, you can there is an attribute that you can use to annotate it. I don't remember, like there's an attribute, like Copilot will help with us. I don't really recall exactly the name of the attribute right now, but this is for object initialization. The required is a data annotation that kind of like is used more for kind of like structural validation. So they are kind of like, they have different purposes. I don't want to use data annotations attributes on my domain models. I think that's ugly, and that's well, if we are purists about domain-driven design and clean architecture, you shouldn't do that. So you shouldn't have data annotations on your domain model. Obviously, I'm not 100% of purist. There might be places, just instead of kind of like having a total different model that you need to map to, that you can just add a data annotations. But I definitely don't think we should have data annotations on our model classes. I know by using some newer C# feature with functional modeling, you can avoid null forgiving operator. Okay. So that null is the null forgiving operator, so it tells the compiler to not give a warning about the property being null initially. But I think it's the same thing, kind of like, because you know that property could actually be null, and you tell the compiler okay to kind of like skip that. So it's still kind of like, for me it still feels like lying to the compiler. I know I don't say that I'm right and this is the right way. It's just my feeling. It's my feeling that I'm lying to the compiler, and I don't like that. So yeah, you can still assign null to required property, right? Yes, you can. Like this. Obviously, you will get this warning. Cannot convert null literal to non-nullable reference type. Oh, okay. But it's kind of like just a warning, and declares nullable. So theoretically, you can. I'm not sure in the newer C# features if this is still a thing or not. So we have the first name, last name, phone number, and what else? Do we need something else here? No, and then we have a different concept that we need to model, which is the address itself. Checking if there are any other comments or questions on the other platforms, but seems to be fairly quiet both on X and on LinkedIn. But I'm still thrilled that we have the most viewers tuned in from X. I really appreciate that. I just hope that that what we're doing here, I don't know, maybe you find the discussions interesting, and maybe one or two ideas, I don't know, you find them interesting even if you don't agree with them, and in the end you will find them as bad ideas, but maybe at least if it gives you some food for thought, then I'm totally happy and hope that you are also happy. So let's model the other thing that we have here. We have address, city, state. So yeah, definitely we need an address. Okay, let me just do this here. Let's make this public. And you said we want to make them records. Yeah, let's make them records. Let's make them records. Okay, so in the address, what do we actually have in the address? Comparison of email must be case insensitive. Normalize them and do bit by bit ordinal comparison, or compare them using less efficient case insensitive comparison. Doesn't matter. Yeah, but to be honest, I totally agree with that. But this is not something that I will care about in this stream. As I said, I want to focus more on the functionality itself of what we want to implement here, instead of really getting every domain detail 100% right. So yeah, I totally agree with that. Okay, so what do we actually place in the address? I think the personal information we don't need for now. So obviously this address itself we kind of like don't need. Actually, this is not the address, I think. Actually, here we would need kind of like separate street name and street number. So we'll kind of like replace that address, and we'll go to the address here. Let's have public required string street name. Public required. I just want the public int street number. Okay. Then we'll have city, state. Let's maybe call it region to kind of like be somehow globally. Okay, what does Copilot else do? Postal code, I think it's okay. Let's I don't know, normally I think the naming of zip code is a little bit more ubiquitous. City, region, but then I would like to have country here. No, actually after the zip code. Let's have the country after the zip code. Although this doesn't really matter. Why do I have phone number here? Public required string country. Okay, so that's all information that I kind of like want to have there. So what's happening with the music? I don't hear any music anymore. Let's move to another song here. I think that should be fine. Okay, see, there's a lot of discussions here. The email, okay. Nothing protects against null assignment at runtime. You can use reflection to do shady stuff. Yeah, you can use reflection to do everything. You can even set private members. Let's compile them. Nullable references are best bet for classic OP first languages like C#. Now I can definitely see the advantages of nullable reference types, but I also think they kind of like bring, to me it seems that they still bring some ambiguity. And there are a lot of cases where they do more harm than good. And when you kind of like want to simply, well, maybe even in one file not have them, like you can deactivate them. For instance, if you have the API contracts, that's something that probably we will not have to, or we don't want to have these nullable warnings. Dev Journey, hello, thank you very much for joining. Where are you watching from? And hello to Catalin. Hello Catalin, thank you for joining. I assume you're from Romania. Will you add all this personal data to the JWT? I don't know. The thing is that we don't have requirements. So that's a little bit strange for me, obviously, because usually we have all these things as requirements, but surely I will not add all the address to the claims. It doesn't really make sense. Like, probably we'll have the email, we'll have the username to the claims, but, well, not everything. From Yemen, hello Dev Journey, thank you very much for tuning in from Yemen. Why is street number not required? Because it's an int. Int cannot be null. So it has a default value. It won't be null. Required, we just use this keyword when we have nullable reference types, like string, for instance. But I don't know, maybe I get something wrong here, but that's at least my take on this for now. So we have street number, region, zip code, country. Let me check back with the employee. What we have, so city, state, zip code, country, it's everything. So we have added this type of things. Then let's say public address. Once again, why do I have a lot of errors? Because of this. And actually that's let's remove that. Tuning in from Serbia, Niš. Dusan. So Dusan, you are also from Niš. I didn't know that you're also from Niš. I visited Niš and I met Milan and Stefan there. It's kind of like some very nice time. Why do not use DDD? Because there's no point in using full DDD here. I think we tend to understand DDD totally wrong. Domain-driven design is not only about some tactical patterns that you have in code. Domain-driven design is something about strategic thinking and designing a software that implies or involves all the component, the organization, the structure, and how you get the requirements, how you define the requirements, how you define service boundaries, how do you define boundaries between teams, how teams work together. Everything is DDD. So when you say DDD, actually most of domain-driven design is not the patterns that are called tactical patterns actually that you see in code. And we don't have this need to have DDD here. DDD is something that you or I would add only when it's needed. Like, it's not needed in every application. You can still have some parts of DDD, like use this pattern here, that pattern there, where it might make sense, but it doesn't really add, from my point of view, any value right now, kind of like doing everything full DDD and let's define an I aggregate and an I value object and whatever. Like, if we think a little bit, actually we are already using some DDD concepts here. Because credential is a value object here, but it's just a record, so we have by default some equality implementing on that. It's immutable, but I don't really want right now to kind of like go full-fledged, like implement all the possible tactical patterns of DDD here in this application. I really want to concentrate more on the functionality itself. And I would strongly discourage to try to go full and apply all the DDD patterns in really every application, because we need to critically think and understand where it makes sense to go full-fledged DDD and where it doesn't make sense. Yeah, lots of .NET devs in Niš. Yeah, a lot of them, I say. So next time I'll be in Niš, Dusan, I'll let you know, so we'll also meet. Have Sana, many love and thanks from Pakistan. Thank you very much for tuning in from Pakistan. And Mbit, have you ever worked with event-driven systems? Any opinion on event-driven systems? I haven't worked a lot with event-driven systems, but know that every Sunday there's a video coming. And this Sunday, the video will be about getting started with event sourcing in .NET using Martin. So we'll try to understand, okay, because I think the most challenging part of let's say event sourcing and generally event driven is that it's kind of like a different way of thinking about software compared to the traditional approach, what we actually do here. So I think it's very interesting. I worked on a system that was partly event sourced, so not entirely. And I still think that for a lot of systems, it doesn't really make sense to have everything like event sourced in the system. But there are things, or there are concepts or business workflows that kind of like have a lot of events, and it might make sense to event source them and act more in an event driven manner. But for things that don't really change a lot, maybe you can still keep it relational. So yeah, but I admit I don't really have a ton load of experience with event sourcing. Like, now it depends what you mean by event driven systems, because I've worked with microservices. Like microservices are event driven because you kind of like send a lot of events from, let's say, to communicate from one system to the other, and there are a lot of communication patterns. And well, basically you send messages, but messages are usually responses that happen on an event. So yeah, kind of like I work with microservices, yes. But if you think more in terms of event sourcing, like everything should be event sourced, not really. Have you ever tried gRPC instead of HTTP REST API? Any opinion on gRPC? gRPC is a very good communication option for service-to-service communication. Like, the thing is that, and I actually had a talk earlier this year in Sofia about this concept that microservices are evil, and one of the points there was exactly on this part about communication, because everybody says that, okay, the great thing of microservices is that, well, you can decouple them and you do everything asynchronously. Like asynchronously meaning that you lose this idea of transactionability. But the moment that you really try to have microservices in practice, you will see that kind of like the requirements that always come or surface are that for business critical processes or a process, transactionability is still needed. And services, you will see that you will need to communicate from a service to the other, which obviously according to the microservices theory is not a good thing. It's an anti-pattern, but there are a lot of practical scenarios where you just need to do that. And when you need to do that, I think gRPC is the best way to go, because it's faster, it's kind of like a very, very direct communication, it's very, very easy. So I used a lot, or in the system that I worked on, we used a lot of gRPC communication when we needed to communicate directly, like in a synchronous manner between services. But other than that, I wouldn't really expose gRPC to be consumed by clients like an Angular application. I don't really think that it makes a lot of sense. But once again, I might be wrong or about that, or I might be biased by the fact that most of the systems they work with, and most of the systems overall, if you look on the internet and everybody basically, you will see that all the systems there have a regular REST API, I would say. Now in the systems, I say, as we communicated service to service, it was a server to server communication. We didn't really bother about OAuth. Probably it's not a good thing, but yeah. So I think Victor, hello, salute, thank you very much also for joining, Victor. Let's see what we have here. So on X, still no other new message. On LinkedIn, no new message. And we've lost some of the viewers on LinkedIn. So LinkedIn is kind of like, well, the worst performing platform right now for me. And on YouTube, I think we're doing good. We are doing good here on YouTube. But still on X we have more. Thank you very much for everyone this joining, especially for those that are joining from does gRPC also uses auth for authentication? To be honest, I'm not sure how gRPC could use auth for authentication. I really never asked this question myself. I said, as we had service to service communication directly, that happened through private networks basically. Probably that's something that that was wrong, and that I would have to rethink a little bit. So you build a project like not the same, but the same keycloak library. Okay. Well, or even it's similar to Microsoft ASP.NET Core Identity, what we want to do here, or similar to, I don't know, Auth0, or yeah, definitely. Okay, so coming back to our employee here, we have the address, so we have defined the address. Then we have the job title, department manager. What else do we have? But where did we put the first name and the last name? I think we removed them. Username, email, password. Oh, we have this personal information, but we haven't added the personal information to the employee, I think. Let's add this. Yep, that's it. Okay, now we have this job title, department and manager. I think that could be that these are things that I would say they also kind of like belong together somehow. They belong together somehow. So I'd place them in something else. How should we call this class? Should be, I don't know, job information, or I don't know, it's the native English speakers. How should we call a class in which we want to place information that are, let's say, job related, like the job title, like the department, the manager, the profile picture. Every department will have to extract in a dedicated class that's totally separate. Okay, date of birth, actually I'd place it in the personal information. And actually here we can have a date only, because here we don't really care about the hour, we just care about the date. But I'd place it there. What identity provider have you used for most in your career, and also what is your favorite identity provider? I have mostly used, like 90% of the cases, Azure Active Directory, and the other 5% or 10% of the cases I have used Auth0. So I can't really have a very objective comparison, but I think I liked Auth0 better than that. Or I liked Auth0 better than Azure Active Directory, or how they call it, Enter ID right now. But then again, these two identity providers are for different purposes, and obviously there are some differences. Okay, profile picture. Should we move the profile picture also to the personal information, or should we have it here? So what would you say? Do we have any native English speakers here? So how should we call a class in which we put information like job title, department and manager, like information that's somehow job related? What would be the class for that? Date of joining, date of leaving, that's well, something that's not a personal information, but it's something that needs to be on the employee. This can be date only, and this can also be date only, because we are not interested in the hour, the second, the minute and so on, so that's kind of like not important for us. Is active, is deleted, that's something that we will keep. Date, time, date created. This I think we want to have them as the datetime offset. Updated as, because this is some type of information that's kind of like we want to capture also the exact maybe minute and second and so on when something happened. Okay, created by, updated by and deleted by. Okay. Okay, so what do we have here? So still, let me check on the other platforms if we have some native English speakers. Maybe there was some feedback somewhere. How would we call a class that would contain job related information like job title, department and the manager? how should we call that? Let me check also on LinkedIn, but it's still the same, so nothing really happened here. Nothing really happened. Okay. Once again, I think there are some people that have joined a little bit later. So as I announced at the beginning, I did something very, very nice, or well, I'm not sure if it's nice, but it's something that I did for the first time. That's actually an effort that's basically just trying out to see exactly how it is, but I still think that there is some value to it. And I have released basically my first ebook. And you can find the ebook here. It is about API versioning. It's not a long one, but I think it's some very condensed and important information that most of us should be aware about when deciding about what versioning actually means, because it's not just dropping a version number in a URL, although even that is a really important point of discussion. Where should we specify the version numbers? So you can definitely check this ebook out. Maybe also, well, share it with or share this link to the ebook to your friends, colleagues, people that you might think might find that useful. And I would totally appreciate that. Obviously, if you have feedback afterwards, just well, you can find my email address basically on my YouTube profile, or you can DM me on LinkedIn or on X. So you can definitely get in touch with me and send me some feedback on that. That would be totally appreciated. And yeah, the idea is that this part of the book is actually something that or will be part of something much bigger than this, which will be really a book that will contain everything like everything that you need to be aware about when you design and create production ready APIs. That book will have hundreds of different pages, and I already started to work on that, and I will kind of like make it available step by step while I start to, or starting with the point when I have at least 3 or 4 chapters. So how should we name this class? Suggesting employee role. We'll have roles, but this well, roles is we'll handle roles separately. But definitely we will need roles. Definitely we'll need claims, organizational information as the name for the class. Yeah, let's go with that. You know what? Let's go with that. Although the name is a little bit long, but that's it. Let's call it organizational information. Let's make it public. Let's make also this record. Okay, so here we have, where is the employee? Here it is. So job title, department manager. Okay, the profile picture. Should we put the profile picture in personal information? I mean, it's not really a personal information, the profile picture. Org info, the short version. I don't think it's actually a good idea to name classes like with abbreviations, but it's also a matter of preference. But I think, especially now with IDEs that they do a lot of auto completions for you and stuff like that, I think we can kind of like type the full name of what, or of the concept that we want to have. So employee, organizational information. So what do we have here? So here we have job title, department. I think that should be, what is this all about? I'm curious. Employee ID, department, position, manager ID, manager name, manager email, company ID, location ID, office ID, team, cost center. A cost center, yeah, that's something that probably will need to have, but I will not care about that. Employment status ID, employment. Oh my god, employment contract renewal limit count. Okay, yeah, probably if you really want to do something like this, you would need all this type of things. But for now, yeah, let's keep it simple. So we have department, we have manager. What else did we have previously? Job title. Why did I delete job title? Yeah, department, but no, let's make it differently. And this will be GID. Department, I want to have it as a dedicated concept in my application, I think. So let's have department here. Public. You can also have this as a record. So in department, actually, I think I would more or less want to have this as an entity. So this won't be just a complex property. We'll need basically also in the database to have kind of like the departments somehow. So, here I would use an identifier for that. Public required string name, public required string description. Okay. Yeah, that could be optional. Why do you use a mouse to create a new file? I don't know, I never kind of like get accustomed to use shortcuts. Even after 12 years of working with Visual Studio. I guess everybody's different a little bit. Okay, question, how anemic we should keep the model, and should we? That's actually a great question, and I actually watched a video, I think, from Derek Comartin. I think he published it today or this week, or kind of like, I think it was a recent one, in which he said that having an anemic domain model is not necessarily something bad if the business doesn't really require it. But I tend to not really disagree 100% with it. So I think he's right in a lot of circumstances, but I think there are some practical reasons why I usually like to add some behavior in my classes, even if that behavior is something very simple like updating a property, or I don't know, adding something to a list or whatever. So you'll see that we will have things in our domain, but right now we are just setting up the properties and the data structure, but we will have some behavior. And the main practical reason why I like to have behavior, even if it's simple update behavior of property names or values or whatever, but I like to have it on the object itself, because I can unit test it easier. And I don't need to kind of like have to think about testing it as part of the, I don't know, flow of the handler or things like that. So I think it has a practical importance to have a lot of behavior in the model itself, even if that behavior is not really complex. It's just maybe updating some properties. Okay, no GID for ID here, no. Because here we will only have a very limited number of entities, and we also won't 100% expose everything outside, although the ID probably it will be exposed in the API somehow, or maybe not, or maybe only in the internal part for admins to create a new department, but that's not something that we will be bothering probably with this API. Have you ever used OpenTelemetry? Not in production applications. I have played around with that, but I haven't used it in production yet. But it's something that's definitely kind of like, it is in the needs to be done column for me. GID used to be considered expensive in memory terms. Well, it kind of like, I think it is more expensive than having an integer, but yeah. You look very good. What is your secret? I've been doing a lot of sports recently, like a lot of running. Even last week basically I did a 10k race where I did beat all my personal records ever. So I ran 10k in 51 minutes and 30 seconds, which I know for some of you might be slow, but for me I wouldn't have thought this possible like 7 or 8 months back. But I'm training a lot. I'm running 5 days a week at least. Now that I also had the flu, like I had 2 days that I didn't run, but today I felt a little bit better, so I went out for a run. I ran 8 kilometers. It was horrible because of the flu my muscles were aching even without any movement, so it was the most horrible run ever, I think. But I still went out, and I will also go tomorrow, and in kind of like the end of the month I want to do half marathon. So that's the plan. Okay, have you ever experienced burnout during your career? That's a good question, and actually yes, I have. If you go on this file, you can change the default class templates to the public and have no default directives. Program files, Visual Studio, community. Okay, C# code. Yeah, probably there's also some setting that I can access from here. But to be honest, I don't want to bother with it right now. We have GID manager ID, that would be the ID of the manager, and I think that for the department actually that's everything that we need. That's actually probably we'll need to configure this a little bit separately, but you know, no, it's a manager ID. We'll consider this separately, but we'll have this I collection of employee and its employees, and yeah, these are the employees that kind of like belong to the department. So what I would like to do here is maybe I use but then kind of like it doesn't really let's initialize it here, but I think I can even do it like this. No, no, because it's a collection. Actually, that's a good point here. So let's have this list of employee, because kind of like it shouldn't be null. So Sana, what is your opinion about a separate folder configuration in domain layer for rules and validation about domain entities? What do you mean exactly by validation? Like you want to validate that something like a Fluent validator for the domain entity itself? I wouldn't place this in a different folder. I would place it also here in the employees. Maybe, yeah, it depends, but the idea is that that's why I structure it kind of like, okay, I have employees and I have here all the classes that are related to that model. If I would have something like a validator, I would probably put it also here in this folder, so not in a different one. But that would be only a validator for the domain model itself. Have you ever worked in a startup? No, unfortunately not. Because when I joined the company for which I work right now, it was 7.5 years ago. The company was kind of like small, but it was definitely not a startup. Yeah, Fluent validation also writes some custom attribute. Okay, I wouldn't want to write custom attributes, but definitely we could do that. Are you happy with your current place? Obviously I need to say yes to this one, no? Obviously I need to say yes to this one. And there was actually a question earlier about it, if I have experienced burnout, and I think I have. That's one of the reasons why I didn't actually for 3 or 4 months post any video or didn't do anything. It was mostly because this type of burnout and accumulated a lot of frustrations in a lot of different areas. So yeah, I needed to kind of like reset my priorities a little bit, and I think I managed to do that. Burnout is sadly the illness of this profession. I think not only this profession, I think it's an illness, it's a general illness, because if you are not in this profession, if you are in other professions, like if you are in a profession that's also paid reasonably well, you still have to work a lot, and you still sometimes make to do overtime, or I don't know, to do kind of like shifts. If you're a doctor, you have to make, I don't know how it is in other countries, but in Romania, like, you have to do 24 hours shift, and you have one day break, but still you have to do a lot of these things. Then you get called in very often at different times. So yeah, it's I think it's something that's not related only for us, for that working IT. It's a general problem. For those that kind of like are not working jobs that are very well paid, they unfortunately have to get a second job or something like that. So I think burnout is a real problem for everybody. But I think that the most important thing is that we all find periods when kind of like we get conscious about the fact that, hey, I think I might experience a burnout, and take a little bit, or take a step back, try to reflect, try to find some activity that relaxes you, but it also kind of like gets your mind in a better shape. For me, this type of activity was running, for instance. When I run, I never run with music, with headsets, because when I run, it's actually a good place for me to actually decompress my mind, and that's a very good thing. It seems you are somehow supporting the ops. I'm trying free diving right now. Whoa, that sounds nice. That sounds a little bit scary. But yeah, that's definitely something we should try. That's something interesting. Okay. So, what is your favorite monitoring tool? Azure Application Insights, Grafana. I hate Azure Application Insights. I think it's the worst tool ever, the most expensive one. It's I don't know, people that made it, I think they hated developers and well, people that generally maintain the applications. Grafana is one very good option. Unfortunately, I have mostly worked with Azure Application Insights, because on most projects that I've worked, they are full Azure, and yeah. So yeah, that's the one with which I work the most, actually. But Grafana is, I don't know, a very nice one. Besides Grafana, to be honest, I didn't try any other monitoring tool. But yeah, for me, guitar, swimming, running, and sometimes amateur hiking, but guitar against burnout is a requirement. Cool. Playing the guitar, that's nice. Maybe you should do a YouTube channel with you playing the guitar, or teaching how to play the guitar, or the guitar, or how it's pronounced. I don't know. I also go hiking, not regularly, but I also go hiking quite a lot. This summer when I was in Austria, actually, we went on a very, very tough hike, so it was, whoa, but it was a very nice one. It was a very nice one. Okay, cool. So we have this department, we have the ID, name, description, the GUI, but no, we don't have a no, why? We don't need a manager ID on department. Because department, or we might have, well, the lead of the department, let's say. Where did you go? In Austria, it was Traunstein, the hike that we went. No, here I think we're already getting into discussions that are, once again, we lose a lot of time into things like that are very conceptual on the domain model of having a company, basically, or something that models a company, while we are actually interested in just having basically some stuff here so that we can get our identity provider going. That's actually a good question. Like, the manager should no, I think the department should hold this information, but yeah, basically I think each department would have something like a manager, I guess. but you know that usually maybe they are usually not called managers in companies for departments. They have, I don't know, department lead, or I don't know, there are different type of roles. Probably job role would be kind of like a different. Let's not lose a lot of time with this. So we in department, we don't have any manager for the department. We have just ID, name, description, and an I collection of employees, which actually are the employees of this department. And then we add a service department manager. Okay, so I have lots of suggestions and opinions for development of this IdP and base project DDD clean monolith architecture. We are already using clean architecture, so that's something that we'll use. Partly we'll also use DDD. Dependency injection we'll use a lot. Reflection to read register dependency on runtime. No, I think I won't do that. I started to kind of like hate that. So yeah, some of the things we already do, some of the things we will do, some of the things we will not do. But yeah, that's the beauty of programming, because well, everybody can shape basically the software, can create it the way that it sees fit the best. But I think that the idea of using reflection to register services on startup, I know that I even have a video in that I did where I was well talking about this idea, but I personally don't like it because reflection is a little bit expensive, and it also brings a lot of magic into the application. And now the thing is, probably I am very biased, and my opinions are biased based on the experience obviously that I have. But working in an outsourcing company, the thing is that kind of like the team composition usually changes very often, and you also had to take this into account. And what's the goal? When you have a new team member, you want to ramp that new team member up as quick as possible. Now, the more things you have in applications that are or that seem like black magic, so things happen but you don't know exactly why, it means more time that that new person needs to kind of like spend on reading the documentation, looking through the code of the application to understand why certain things are happening in a certain way. That's why I kind of like don't really want to use this reflection that kind of like registers a lot of services. You will see, I'll use another approach with extension methods in each layer of the application. Extension methods that are responsible to do these registrations, but then each layer has these extension methods, and it's something that's very predictable. And if you have new team members, they see it once in one project and they know that in all other projects it will be exactly the same. So it's the whole idea of having this type of predictability of how the application or how the project is structured. And for the context in which I was working, this was a very important requirement. And that's actually also the reason why I still think that even personally, I wouldn't want to do that if I could afford that, is not use, for instance, a unit of work and repositories. But in practice, I've seen that it's actually easier because people, they come usually from internships or they watch some courses, and everybody talks about repositories and so on. So it's kind of like something like a common knowledge. And that's why on most of the commercial projects, I tend to use them, even though I still think that conceptually it's not okay to have an abstraction over an abstraction. So I totally agree with that. But in my experience, the practical part also plays a very important role. Do you use property-based testing and mutation testing? I know it can fully fit in one stream video, but post wanted to ask. Well, that's actually a very, very good question. I usually, well, probably there's not a lot of mutation-based testing going on, but yeah. How does your mentorship members feature work, by the way? So basically it's very simple. You can get, so if you become a Code Wrinkles member, no matter of what tier it is, you get also access to the CodeWrinkles server on Discord. And once we catch up there, basically, I get in touch with, or you get in touch with me, because I don't really track every day each new member, but we can simply just get in touch there, and we usually have all the sessions on Discord. But obviously, if somebody wants, we can have mentoring sessions also on Microsoft Teams or Google Meet or whatever. So that's no problem. Yeah, happy with your opinion, but we can make it cost effective. Yeah, probably, I don't know, probably. But when team compositions change very often, it's kind of like very hard to make a lot of things cost effective. But definitely it's most probably not impossible. Okay, so I think we are good for the department. So if we go back to our employee, where is the employee right now? I think here. So we have here, I think we have some things that we have missed. So we have this public organizational information that we haven't added. And the organizational information contains, but I said that the department, we created a new class. So we have here okay, but then here probably that's, well, something that I don't like, but that actually will happen. Public int. I'll do this so for Entity Framework to get all the mappings. Now this department will also set to nullable. So this is the organizational information. It so the employee of the employee. Okay, so it has a job title. It says department and the manager ID. Okay, so let's go back to the employee. Also, the music is gone once again. Why is the music gone? Oh, it's not gone. Okay, but I don't know. Let's switch it. Okay, so where should we put the profile picture? Have you ever worked with graph database? Actually, well, I have. Cosmos DB has basically a graph database inside, so it has a graph adapter, so you can use graphs there. I think it's based on Cassandra, but I haven't worked with it a lot. And we also have projects that use Neo4j as a graph database. Alexander, thank you very much for joining us as a member of the channel. So where should we put the profile picture? Should we leave it here in the employee class? Is this a personal information? I don't think the profile picture is a personal information. It can be null, by the way, so it's not necessarily that set. So I think I assume we'll leave it here. So date of living, date of joining, date of living is active, is deleted, created at, updated at, created by. Now here the only thing is GUID, created by, GUID, and GUID. Okay, cool. Now we have here some things. That's a hell lot of fields. Actually, these are even not a lot. And we have reduced it drastically. Now, theoretically, we could kind of like extract these in something like a base entity, or something that's called an auditable entity, or something like that. But I'm not sure I want to do it right now. But that would definitely be something that we can extract. Now probably in a real application, if you want to model the domain model like fully, if we have clear requirements of what needs to contain and how, probably there would be also some HR related information that will have to move in a dedicated class probably. So yeah, there are some things like this. But I think this we will have created at, updated at, deleted at, created by. I think let's make here a folder in a domain. I know people hate that, but I will call this folder common. and I don't know, let's call this auditable entity. What was once again the shortcut for the new file? Control Shift A. Public. Let me go to the employee. Where is the employee? Where is the? Let's take all of these and let's place it here. Is active, is deleted, is leaving. Okay. And now you know this auditable entity public. We'll make it abstract. Control plus T. Okay. Have you ever broke production? Yes. I have once deleted basically a production database when I was very young. Obviously it was actually in the end, like with the mind from now, I think that basically if your team is in kind of like a situation that the junior has access to break your and to delete or break your production database, then something is totally wrong with the setup of the entire project. But yeah, at that point, unfortunately, it happened. So yeah, but I did that one once I had the problem with kind of like some changes to an API endpoint that broke some contracts actually, and yeah, that it was another problem. So it happened. It happened. Fortunately, when I did mess up the production database, fortunately, it was at least we had backups, so we had regular backups twice per day, which was kind of like okay for that specific. So employee is an auditable entity, and I think the department also be okay, would be an auditable entity in this case, and now we have removed all of those ones, so I think our class is looking better right now. So Alexander, guilty as well for the production database. For that one, are you guilty? I think most of us have done some even if not deleted the entire database, but release some data, or I think that's kind of like a standard. I think most of developers go through this at some point. I mean, it's required. I would even think it's required to go through some stuff like that. Obviously, it shouldn't be, but yeah. Cool. Let me check everything is okay. Let me check LinkedIn. Okay, people are still watching here. Also, hello to all of you who are watching on LinkedIn. I see someone is from Bangladesh. Thank you very much for tuning in. From Bangladesh, X once again is our leading viewer count right now. Thank you very much, everybody joining on X. I really appreciate that. And YouTube, obviously, thank you very much for all of you here and for being such valuable members of the community, being subscribed to this channel, and yeah, I really appreciate that a lot. Cool. Let's see what do we have right now. Just watch video, try to understand. After this complete course I help you will be in love to work with big entities. Okay. No, I think what Alexander meant, the big entities, is not kind of like that you have a lot of code, because you can definitely have behavior, but we were having lots of properties. And I think that was right, because what we try to do, if you go back to what Copilot gave us and what we have right now, this is, well, a major refactoring, I would say. So we have basically extracted a lot of properties that conceptually belong together in concepts of the application that belong together, like the credential, like the personal information, like the address, like the organizational information. We have then also extracted all this type of created, updated, deleted in this abstract class. And right now it kind of like looks way cleaner than it looked before. Now there are some other things, and I really didn't think that this part of modeling will take us so long. One thing that I really like to do is to have a static factory method. Usually we are missing the gender field. Yeah, that's something that's debatable nowadays. No? So let's just keep it for now. Let's just keep it for now. Why don't we make private setters? Okay, makes sense. Basically, I've just left the initialized, well, the automatically or the auto initialized properties the way that they were generated basically by Copilot, and I would kind of like mostly use private setters. So what I will have here right now is a public static employee create, and I want just to create the employee. So I want to have this static factory method. However, there are some things that and that's something that I'm very opinionated on. What actually do we need here? Let's maybe, because when we create an employee, so the use case will be that an administrator will need to create the employee. Like, to have an employee, like a basic employee in our application, what is the minimum thing that we require? It's actually the credential. Just have a username, email, and password hash. The reason for this is because probably the admin will just create this credential, but then kind of like different departments in the company will have to update and set like the personal information, the address, organization information, and things like that. So that's why my factory method will have here only a credential that we want to get, and the GUID we will leave entity framework core generate the GUID, so we don't need to get a GUID. So we'll have here return new employee credential equals credential. That's actually what we'll do here. Obviously here theoretically we could also write some validators. We could have logic inside the credential to validate the credential. As somebody mentioned here, we should have a normalized user email address for comparison. So there might be a lot of things here, but we'll just keep it like this for now. So we'll just use the factory method, and then usually what I like to do is kind of like expose like the changing, and that's something that I mentioned earlier. Like, I want to just expose changing the state of the model itself through different public methods, but as I said, the setters will kind of like will make them private, and as somebody else mentioned here. So I would have here then a method, and this would be an instance method, public. I also try or like to keep names that kind of like define exactly okay the action that happens in the application. So we would have here is set personal information. We'll get the personal information. Obviously we would need to validate that. We'll not lose time right now to create validators and things like that. Obviously the validation, if we think in terms of DDD, this employee would be the aggregate and it would be responsible to validate this. So we would probably have a personal information validator that would be applied, and yeah, if it's not valid, we will throw an exception. Will entity framework safeguard us from circular references looking at the manager ID field? Actually, I haven't really created that's actually a good point. That's actually a good point, and I think we might have this problem when we get the entity framework. We'll try to see then how we'll sort that out. Okay, so now we have this set personal information. Similarly, we would like to here have public void set address, but here Copilot didn't really help a lot. address, and then what else? Organizational information. That's something that we set here. Now, in the initial create, actually, there are some other things that we would need to do. Let's say have here var current date time equals date time offset, and we'll store everything UTC in our database, because here actually here we'll need the GUID of the person that kind of like created this account, but actually let me go to auditable entity. Yeah, we'll keep the GUID. So for now, I'll get the GUID of the creator. The thing is that here basically there might be also systems that might create the account, and in that case, who created it? So I think actually this GUID SQL Server has something like hierarchy data types for things like organization hierarchy. Or just use common table expressions. Yeah. That's now I'm thinking right now with this idea of, okay, who created this? Because kind of like, okay, it's maybe sometimes it kind of like the accounts are created automatically by a system. So usually when it's created, it's kind of like we will not have the identifier. We'll have the username that created it. So let's go to the auditable entity. So it would be string nullable created by. Let's have here auto string, and we have the usernames. I don't say that this is the best solution, but I think right now, kind of like that's the word that came to mind. The idea is that we want to have here the possibility to have something that we can, let's say, have something like a default, like for instance system, or something like that. So that's why we do that. It's something like system user with data seeding. Yeah, okay, but still, I think it might make a little bit more sense to have here like the username, or something like that. Created by would reference the system user. Yes, then the created by would reference the system user. Correct. They kind of like hate this idea of having a system user. I think it's a bad idea in somehow, because it's kind of like your entire application might fail because of that at a certain point. And I'm not sure if that's a good thing. So let's just have them as strings right now. And here, basically, right now when we create it, we don't really care who created it. Could be an external system, could be, I don't know, an administrator from a dashboard or whatever. Could be even synchronized from Active or Azure Active or whatever. So basically here, there will be a lot of different ways through which this creation might happen. Now, when the creation happens here is that kind of like we want to have created at, updated and deleted. Obviously, I don't think that we want to set. Actually, what's in auditable entity? Once again, data type offset. You know what? I want to have this as nullable. So I want them. I don't want to have default value in the database for them. I want to have. But why would it have to fail? Like somebody might delete your user, for instance. I don't know. Like I deleted the production database at a certain point. And if you recreate it, it would probably have a different GUID and the user ID, and then basically, I don't know, experience. I think Alexander's feeling confused right now. Okay. I'm not sure exactly why, but yeah, could be. So yeah, so we have usernames, and in this case, we'll just set in this one, we'll just created at and created by, but it will not be this one. It would be simply we call just system. Probably we'll create some class that will hold some constants afterwards. Why are you not keeping the created by, updated by, and deleted by properties as nullable GUIDs? Because I want to be able to have also some other arbitrary values, like system or other things. But if users might be created in, I don't know, by other systems or through other mechanisms, maybe I want to kind of like have that information there. So that's why I kind of like, well, transfer this into a string, and we'll have the username or kind of like something that indicates what exactly created that. Once again, I don't say that that's the best idea. It's just a workaround for now. To be honest, I don't know right now on top of my mind. I would have to think about it, so I don't know exactly what would be the best approach here. But the workaround for now is okay. Let's have this a string. We'll keep the usernames that did the updates and so on. So if this is on a editable entity, so we have the created and the created, and then the updated and deleted parts, we don't really care about them. So we have that here. Now set personal information. Now the only thing that we need to do here is when we set the personal information, I think we'll have something like that. Now that's okay. Something that, once again, let's get this over with. GUID or string performed by. We need to find a different way to actually do that. So now we'll have also here a var current date equals datetime offset UTC. Now we set the personal information, and now here updated at and updated by, performed by. So that's what we need to also set here. When we do the address, set the address, it's actually exactly the same, performed by, and since we just have this, actually that works like this. And we should probably also, because here usually I use the variable, because if you need to set different properties to the exact same time, like if you use datetime offset UTC now on each property set, then the problem is that they wouldn't be the exact time. The time would be different. We should use the base domain entities for common properties. Yeah, our base domain entity is called auditable entity right now. You can think about this as being the okay, and updated by. I've asked it earlier, but I don't know if you've read it. Can't you use the deleted at property to know if an employee was deleted and avoid using the boolean property is deleted? Actually, yes. In fact, I think I would still want to use the property, but I think we can just kind of like have that property to not be mapped. So I think we can do something like this. Equals, and it would be to them. But deleted at What's the problem with this one? It's... Why is this not okay? Because like this. So if that is null, then is deleted. And in the entity framework configuration, when we will do the configurations, we'll have this as not mapped. So we will not have this in the database, but I definitely want to expose this as a property because it will be very easy to check, like to not always check if deleted equals null for the consumers. They know that it's just this property is deleted, and that's basically it. Thank you, Leonardo. That was actually, I think, a very good catch. What's your opinion on mapping libraries like AutoMapper? Don't use them. Like, I was thinking that everybody that watches right now knows that the video for which I became famous was titled "Don't Use AutoMapper." So yeah, I never use it. I never use it. Okay, so the is deleted, we have sorted that out with the is deleted. Okay, set organizational information. So for the organizational information, it's exactly the same thing. We would need a string performed by, and now we need we set the updated at and the updated performed by. Okay, so what else do we have here? Date of joining, date of leaving. Actually, that should be nullable. This should not be nullable. And I think this should be part of... And the is active, I think we will have this boolean saved in the database because the user can be created, so can be already here, so it has a date created, but it's not active yet. So activating a user might, or usually is in most of the times a different action. So we will keep this, but this one and this one should be part of the initial creation. So we have the credential, we have the date of joining, even though the date of joining might be set by HR at a certain point. But you know what? To keep it things simple, right now let's have date of joining. This would be date only. Okay. And to once again keep things simple. What? What's the problem here? No problem. Just Copilot doing weird stuff. I have seen others set those created, updated, deleted dates in the unit of work just before save changes async. You loop changed entities in the context and set those dates according to entity state. Yeah, that's definitely an approach. Actually, that's an approach, okay. But that would kind of like violate a little bit this idea of encapsulating the behavior of the entity in itself. So yeah, that's definitely a valid approach as well. Okay, so we have this date of joining and what is active, and we'll set the is active. You know what? For now, let's keep it. We invested a lot of time in this already. Visual Studio 2022 lags for me too, even though I have an i9 12th gen. I also have an i9. I have, I think, 64 gigabytes of RAM. I think I have a 3060 graphics card, or is it 37? No, I think it's 3060 without the TI. But also the processor here is i9. But yeah. So Gvidas, by the way, thank you very much for tuning in from Lithuania. I know you already from the other streams. But now, okay, we have this employee. That's okay. I think we've set everything here. Now the GUID. I think Entity Framework Core will still be able to set it because I think it uses reflection. We have commas missing on line 25 and 27. Oh my god. Okay. 25. Man, you were very, very attentive here. Cool. Now, okay, we can have this private set. Right now, once again, private set. Is active. Yeah, once again, private set. And that's it. Now the idea is that nobody outside of this class can actually change this. And one other reason why I think, okay, I know that that some people make this created by and create as part of the unit of work, but if you want to unit test that, then you need to mock it basically. Here I can unit test everything without mocking. So yeah, I don't know. We'll be using mediator, yes. Is deleted property should return true if deleted is not null. Correct. Because if it is deleted, if deleted add is null, it means I think it's too late for me. But I think you're right. So if it's not null, then no, yeah, no, you're right. You're going to unit test it as well, probably not during the stream, or probably at a certain point during the stream we'll do also testing. This therefore leg stretcher. I think the leg stretcher will be kind of like permanent for today, so just want to make sure that I have finished everything here with this one. And I think, yeah, we'll then wrap up because it's kind of like very late already. So I think we have everything that we need for now. Set organizational information, so we have a way to set really everything that we need. The only thing that we can set right now, but well, we don't care about it right now, is this date of leaving. So I think we have right now the basic functionality of the employee itself. Now, one other thing, move is related to the base class. I don't know, because this deleted, basically it's a flag that's kind of like not part of the auditability of the entity. It's just kind of like a helper for other consumers, so I'm not 100% sure about that. Now, the next thing that we would need to do before we can wire different things up and have the database, but I think that will be for the next stream, is we need to set up some very basic things that we will need for the identity provider. We will need roles and we'll need claims. We will need to define what roles are, and we'll need to have a many-to-many relationship between employees and roles, and we need to have claims. And we'll kind of like have, I think, the concept of employee claims, because there are claims that can belong to an employee, and there is this concept of role claims, like claims that are specific for a certain role. So we'll have to model that a little bit, and then we can kind of like set up Entity Framework Core, and then we can move over to kind of like really implement all the endpoints and well, logging in users, generating JWTs, and we'll need to also create a password service that will hash the password when you create it initially, and that will also check the hash and validate if on login if the user is or if the credentials are right. Maybe we could even kind of like have this as being part of the, but no, because the password hasher will just have to check the password, like all the other information will already basically have, and we can just look up in the database. So yeah, but that's what we'll do next time. So implement this idea of roles in our application, claims that can be specific to roles and claims that can be specific to users. And then we can go over to implement the password hashing, generating JSON web tokens, and so on and so forth, and then implement all the login functionality that we can have in the application. And after we have the basic login functionality on which we return a JSON web token, I think the next step afterwards would be to implement the OpenID Connect standard. Like for that, we'll need to implement the well-known endpoint, the user endpoint, and I think there is a token endpoint that's specific for OpenID Connect, but only things that are related to OpenID Connect at the beginning. So yeah, we'll go over to do that next time. Cool. Now, really thank you very much for tuning in, all of you here on YouTube, but also thank you very much all of you on X. There are more and more people on X watching. Thank you very much. I really appreciate that. Stay tuned because most probably next Friday we'll continue this stream, and we'll continue to build exactly from where we left right now. Also, thank you very much for tuning in on LinkedIn. I really appreciate your effort of being here, and I hope you found something useful there. Now, before we stop, once again, for those of you who might have missed it, I have just published an ebook, like literally yesterday. I think it's a very short one, but I think it might be very useful for a lot of people. And if you find it useful, you can get it here. So make sure to check it out, and also share it to with your colleagues or friends, or whoever you think might find this useful. The good information is, and that's why important, stay tuned to Code Wrinkles, because this ebook is actually part of something that will be more important, like how everything that is needed to create a production ready API. Like, it will be a book that will contain really everything, like including things that are very often not included in courses and other books, like practical approaches to HateOS, when we want to implement, how to implement, if we want to implement it, because that's also a very practical discussion that needs to be done, because being 100% REST compliant is, from my point of view, not the end goal or the ultimate truth that we need to aim in our application. So that's why we need a little bit of critical thinking to understand that, and everything will be basically in that book on production ready APIs, from performance tuning for optimizations, monitoring, security, external contracts, modeling or designing the external contracts, versioning, which the versioning part is basically what's published there. And yeah, that's stay tuned, because this book will come and I will publish it incrementally, chapter by chapter, once I have 3 or 4 chapters, and you will be able to already get it. So make sure that that you stay tuned, that you follow me on LinkedIn or on X, or that you are subscribed to my channel, or you can even go to subscribe, if you want, to my newsletter. There you will also get some weekly goodies on the newsletter, like things that I have stumbled upon at work, and based on that I usually create the main content of the newsletter. And other than that main content, usually I share some other, well, stuff that I think might be useful from one week to the other. Dushan, thank you for practical approach and streaming this content. Thank you very much for watching for so long. I really appreciate that. Cerberus reminds me of Mass Effect organization Cerberus. Yeah, kind of like I took the name because this name is just for the product, for the identity provider, because Cerberus, if I'm not mistaken, was the mythological Greek figure that was kind of like guarding the gates of Hades, I think. So identity provider, gates of Hades, seems fair enough, I think. So that's the reason for the name. Cool. So I think we were set up. Make sure you stay tuned. Most probably next Friday at the same hour we'll continue to work on this application. All the Code Wrinkles members will get the source code of what we've done so far probably tomorrow morning. And yeah, if you have any type of other questions or just want to get in touch with me, just write me, hit me with a message either on LinkedIn or on X or on YouTube, and I will be more than happy to get in touch. And stay tuned, stay healthy, Keep coding and enjoy your weekend. That's the most important thing. Have a great day. Bye.